Hi, my name is John Harrison, and I am a volunteer at the National Museum of the United States Army. Well, I was in the Army 32 years, and it saved my life. And because of that, I run the Fairfax County Parkway, and I saw it from this very first moment and watched it as it continued to become a reality, and my heart's in it, and it's just a pleasure to be around the Army every day, or to the extent that I can be around it. Well, as you know, there's an awful lot of them, but I actually went and found what touched me in the part of the museum that talks about World War I. They have a really fascinating area where they've taken postcards that were written by soldiers serving in World War I back home, or to sweethearts or friends. And in that area, they have a picture of a dog. He's called Mutt the cigarette dog. And Mutt distinguished himself as delivering cigarettes to the soldiers in the trenches. Told the story that Mutt was wounded twice, and even though they normally didn't bring the dogs back to the United States, that the unit, they were engineers that he supported, found a way to smuggle Mutt onto the ship and bring him back to New York. And so I'm a dog lover, and I'm always fascinated by how clever soldiers can be if they really want to do something or get something. So I just get a kick out of seeing that picture of Mutt with cigarettes strapped to his back, and the story about the dog. Well, I love to read. I'm sure most of my colleagues that volunteered for this are scholars, professional scholars or amateur scholars. And again, the theme of the museum is that every soldier has a story. So we bring our own personal stories, our lives in the military, and also the stories that we derive from our hobbies. And in my case, it's military history, presidential history. I was working in one of the galleries, and as you know, so far, we really haven't had that much throughput in the museum. But a gentleman came in with his wife. He was in a wheelchair, had the old Army dress green uniform on, and I don't know, he looked frail, but his eyes lit up, and he got up and he was walking around, and his grandchild was with him, and he was telling stories. And I thought, this teaches you a lesson about assuming things. Because he was wearing a patch on his uniform, I assumed that he had served in Vietnam. And I asked him, where did you serve? And his wife very sweetly, very calmly said, well, actually he never served in Vietnam. However, he trained soldiers that were en route to Vietnam, going to Vietnam in jungle warfare in Panama. And so he wears that. So you could tell that the gentleman had lived a hard life and a good life, and he was just delighted to be in the museum and to see the things that he was observing. But you could also tell that he was not doing well, if you will, and the museum and the experience was good for his soul. It just taught me again that you have to be very careful. You have to be very observant. You have to be very kind to everyone that comes there, and respect who they are and whatever it is that they're bringing through those doors. Well, I'm sure that, as you know, there's a lot of them. I will tell you one that came to mind this morning. One of the jobs that I had towards the end of my career is I was the special assistant for the Commander-in-Chief of U.S. Army Europe, General Bill Crouch, who was also the commander of the Peace Stabilization Force at one point in Sarajevo, Bosnia. And I remember when we were working in our headquarters in Sarajevo that it had just been allowed on our part that we could actually go outside of the headquarters, the perimeter where it had concertina wire and that kind of stuff for physical training. And I remember going out one day, and of course we carried a personal weapon with us, but I remember going for a jog through a park in Sarajevo. And I was struck by how happy the people, the citizens who lived in Sarajevo were. Such a simple thing. They were actually able to go out and sit on park benches and be able to sit on the grass in this little park, which had been shot up pretty well, quite honestly. You could tell just by looking at it. But the joy that these people were having, being able to be human. And the kids were playing, and the grandmothers and the grandfathers were sitting on the benches, and people were laughing and talking. I don't know why, but that has always stayed with me. And in times past, I've shared with my students that, to me, that is a great example of why we were there and why the United States Army has gone many places so that people could enjoy, some of the most simple, but probably some of the most invaluable gifts, which is peace and safety and just not having to fear, for their lives. I was told I was a smart student, an intelligent student, but not motivated, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And I was kind of drowning in my personal life, and it was one of those things where I had to do something. And thank God I saw the Army as an opportunity. I dropped out of high school. I was only in the 10th grade. I have a doctorate now. But the first sergeant I ever worked for, I went to Germany on my first assignment. I loved the man so much I called him Dad. And for 33 years, I never ever had a supervisor or a boss that didn't treat me well and didn't want to see me get ahead, and that I didn't greatly, immensely respect. And so again, I'm one of those guys in life that you never wanted to ask me, or if you thought that you wanted somebody to say something bad about the Army institution, it was pretty well understood that you don't want to ask Harrison, because he likes it and he loves it, and he thanks God for it. Well, the unique thing is, we can all go to the same school and sit in the same classroom and hear the same professor and take the same exams and write the same papers. But in the end, every one of us did something different, because it's the lens that we look through. Our life before now, our experiences, the knowledge, all that kind of stuff. In the final moment, though, what I would like to do, and I can only speak for myself, is to realize that the United States Army, in my mind, is probably one of the greatest institutions when it comes to giving people opportunity. No matter what, realizing things have changed, the standards have changed tremendously in, 53 years since I joined the United States Army. But I still believe that the Army and the Air Force, all of our armed services, and let's not leave out the Coast Guard, because they don't get the credit they deserve either. But they're great places for people that are motivated and want to get ahead, want to achieve, to come in and find caring, responsible leadership, all of whom have had to, kind of run the gauntlet and make a name for themselves and accomplish things. but it's just a splendid organization, and I don't believe it's changed that much. I get such a kick, when you go through the museum, when people hopefully will do that. There's in the World War I section, there's a film that runs. It's I forget how long it is, maybe 8 to 10 minutes, but it shows what it was like to be serving in World War I and to be in the trenches, and it shows the soldiers arriving, and they're all optimistic and naive and young, and then as the movie proceeds, it shows the reality of battle and service. But what I think is great about it is that in that film, as in the Army now and probably forever, it's the small moments of the soldiers showing affection to each other, laughing with each other, carrying dogs through the trenches. The Army's a great place, and the people that have served in it, by and large, are wonderful, decent human beings. And there's probably no greater place to try to achieve, and to benefit from it personally, and also to enrich the lives of other people around you. Well, since our country has had to wait, by and large, I think people will be overwhelmed. I'm always amazed how anything, whether it's a TV show or a house that you designed from scratch, or in this case, the museum, it's really a splendid building. How you can take 250 years of history, for lack of a better phrase, and decide how to break it up, how to create it, how to present it, what elements to bring in, the things and the thoughts. I just think that anyone will be delighted to see it. I know the anticipation is great, and I know from the folks that I met and talked with in the early days when we were open, felt the same way, that they were very touched and they were very impressed. So I think it's worth the wait. Like anything, the old saying is that anything worth having is worth waiting for, and I believe that our museum, the museum, qualifies for that.